Maurice Harper was born in 1931 in Dallas, Texas. His father was a longshoreman, and he had one brother and one sister. He would move to Oakland, play basketball at McClymonds High, but he wanted to be a boxer. He couldn't afford the gym dues, so he reached out to the owner of the local gym, Pop Lewis, who spotted him the gym dues if he would be the janitor of the gym. Harper was quoted in an Oakland Tribune article as saying, "When I was a kid, I ate, drank, and slept boxing. I studied Joe Louis for punch speed, Joey Maxim for counterpunching, Ray Robinson for movement. I know boxing like Planters knows peanuts." But early in his development, Harper couldn't find anyone to train him, so he learned by watching fighters who visited the gym. There was Archie Moore, Eddie Booker, Leonard Morrow, but it would be an old fighter now working as a rub-down man inside the gym who would give him his first lessons. Sam Langford. Harper would get instructions from Langford in the gym's off hours. Langford was blind at the time, but he could hear Harper's movements on the gym floor and could tell if he were delivering punches the correct way. With Langford in his corner, Harper would be thrown to the wolves as he would face the accomplished amateur Willie Ballard in his first match. But he would TKO the favored Ballard in a slugfest, with the audience throwing over $340 into the ring to show their appreciation. Langford would become sick, and trainer duties would be turned over to the Lewis brothers, Christy and Paul, who led Harper to a stellar amateur career of 86 wins against 2 losses. He would win the AAU championship and would be voted the Outstanding Amateur Fighter of the Year in 1948. He would turn pro under the tutelage of George Gainford, who had Sugar Ray Robinson in his stable, as well as a fighter named Artie Town, whom Harper said was even better than Sugar Ray. Harper would part ways with Gainford eventually, sign with the famous Jack Kearns, who managed Jack Dempsey, Mickey Walker, and Joey Maxim. But Kearns would fall ill, and Dolph Thomas would take over his managerial reins. Harper's career would start fast. He would win 4 of his first 5 fights by knockout until meeting the experienced Milo Savage. Harper would be winning until he would be cut in the 6th round. Then he wouldn't let his trainer treat the laceration and would refuse to come out for the 7th round. The bell rang, and Savage walked over and punched Harper once before the referee intervened. He asked Harper if he wanted to continue. "I don't want to fight if I got a cut eye," Harper said. The fans booed, and the athletic commission discussed the possibility of withholding his pay. But the next month, Harper would rematch Savage and redeem himself, winning a 10-round verdict. By his 12th fight, he would take on contender Lester Felton with Joe Louis in attendance. Harper would give the vastly more experienced Felton a boxing lesson. Joe Louis was so impressed that he called Harper one of the best boxers he'd ever seen. Harper would find fights hard to come by as he was avoided by top contenders until he signed with manager Sid Flaherty. His national television debut would be against Del Flanagan, who was ranked number 2 in the welterweight division and was on a 10-fight win streak, which included a win over then welterweight champion Johnny Saxton. "If Harper wins," Flaherty said, "I'm ready to guarantee Saxton $50,000 to put his title on the block."
Harper scored with a solid right hand to the forehead of Del Flanagan. Low blow, but there was no warning by referee Bybee there. all over, ladies and gentlemen. Del Flanagan and Maurice Harper going 10 rounds here in San Francisco. We'll have
Judge Eddie James scores 54 points for Flanagan, 56 for Harper. The winner, Harper.
And the winner in quite an upset, a split decision, is Maurice Harper.
Harper would defeat Flanagan, but it was viewed as a boring fight. Most observers felt neither fighter deserved to win. "If that guy can punch, I'm Rocky Marciano," Flanagan replied when a reporter asked if Harper ever heard him. Harper was now in line for a title shot against Carmen Basilio when, in April of 1955, he would be arrested by postal inspectors who caught him stealing a letter containing a check from a mailbox which contained $80. Harper then denied his connection to other similar complaints in the neighborhood. He was placed on 3 years probation and would be charged with vagrancy in July of 1956. But the judge gave him a delayed sentence as he was scheduled to face Joe Michelli in a nationally televised bout.
Harper's left eye is bleeding. Michelli switches to a southpaw style and bombs away at the cut, but Harper holds on and lasts the round. Maurice Harper in the white trunks turns the tables in the fourth round, and Joe Michelli's on the receiving end of some good solid punches to the body. Harper's vision is slightly impaired by his bruised eye, but he isn't having any trouble pinpointing Michelli on the ropes. Harper in the white trunks is keeping pace with his sudden flurries, and right now, Harper unleashes his patented attack. It's the 10th and final round. Maurice Harper is closing strong and is making an all-out bid. The Oakland, California boxer has the hometown folks cheering as he flails away with both hands. But Michelli weathers Harper's storm of blows and starts a hurricane of his own. Joe connects repeatedly with his windmill left. The judges are going to have a tough time determining the winner. The bell sounds, ending the fight. Maurice Harper looks like he's on his way again in the welterweight division as he cops a unanimous decision over rough Joe Michelli.
Harper admitted he was rusty, but his career seemed to be on the downswing. On February 20th, 1957, he would lose to Lou Joseph, a southpaw who confused Harper and stopped him in the 7th round. Harper would then turn to working in a warehouse to make ends meet until he would be arrested again, this time with 6 other people during a raid on his apartment for narcotics. 5 months later, he would be arrested again with 10 other people, and police would confiscate over $800 worth of heroin. 5 years would elapse, and in 1962, Harper would be prepping for a comeback and had a fight scheduled against Frank Belma. If Harper won, he was promised a non-title bout against then welterweight champion Emil Griffith. But again, Harper could not stay out of trouble, as he and a razor blade wielding accomplice robbed a San Jose barber shop. They tied up and gagged the owner, 2 employees, and a customer, stealing over $2,500 and a $600 ring from the owner. Harper would be arrested and would never fight again. During his arraignment, the judge said, "You could have been living the life of Floyd Patterson or Sonny Liston today. Now look at you." Harper would be sent to prison for 5 years. He would be put in charge of a boxing program at the Susanville Correctional Facility, and one of the fighters he would train would be future light heavyweight contender Jesse Burnett. Harper would remain out of the boxing game until 1978, when he would be convinced by longtime friend Frank Pittman to help train fighters. Pittman managed some Bay Area notables such as George Cooper and Tommy Evans. So now Harper is different from some of the fighters I profiled here, as he's someone I knew of personally, so I'm going to veer from the usual script. I trained at Pittman's gym in Oakland in the late 1980s, and Maurice worked in the gym. He was pretty much the custodian and maintenance man, and he was in his mid-50s at this time, so his life had come full circle from his days working at Pop Lewis's gym as a teenager. My own trainer, Jimmy Simmons, didn't seem to care for him too much, as whenever Harper would walk by, Jimmy would say under his breath, that dumbass, he was the #1 contender and got arrested for gun possession. And the only reason I remember this is that Jimmy was the kind of old trainer. He was in his late 70s at this time, and he would tell the same stories over and over again in the same way. His instructions would be repeated to me over and over again. So, sometimes he'd walk behind Maurice, get my attention and make the circle motion with his finger at his temple to let me know that Harper had a screw loose. So, I didn't talk to Harper too much. I was a teenager, so and obviously we weren't peers. But I remember him as being a pretty sullen guy. He was, a soft-spoken type who didn't talk to that many people. The only interactions I remember with him were the few times I had knocked the heavy bag off the chain and then held the bag up while he stood on a chair and reattached it to the mount. So he was still doing some training with some white-collar clients that would come in and work out in the gym. And there was a 4-round novice heavyweight that he trained. And I remember my trainer Jimmy would stop and laugh as loud as he could at how inept Harper's fighter was in watching some of his sparring sessions. So now, ironically, I would cross paths with Harper 20 years later. I would be working at Summit Medical Center's emergency room in Oakland, and he was brought in as a patient. I remember I did get to talk to him briefly, but my memory is really hazy on that interaction. I do remember he wasn't in a monitored bed, so it wasn't a life-threatening type thing. And he was alone for the duration of his visit. I see that he died in June of 2008 at the age of 77. So Maurice Harper is an Oakland Bay Area legend as a boxer and trainer. And in looking at his films, I don't think he could have beaten Carmen Basilio or Emil Griffith, but I think he could have taken Johnny Saxton. If he had not gotten arrested, he could have been the welterweight champion. So he is a tragic could have been. This is another very dated cautionary tale at how some fighters just inexplicably choose criminal behavior over living the straight life and finding out just how much they're capable of.